Silence makes a sound too, and sometimes it screams. Have you ever felt that? That the house you live in feels bigger than the life you're living? That every wall holds an absence, and time in its stillness feels like it has stopped? After 50, living alone can feel like freedom, but there's a difference between choosing your own company and being forgotten inside it. And the hardest part isn't the silence in the house, it's the silence inside, the one we try to avoid hearing. Today, I want to talk to you about that. About what happens when loneliness stops being a passing phase and becomes your permanent address. Stick with me till the end, because maybe you're closer to yourself than you think. You wake up, but something doesn't wake up with you. The light comes through the window, just like it always has. The coffee's there, same as every day. But what's missing isn't outside the cup, it's what stopped living inside you. Some days silence feels comforting, but on others, it grips your chest like a reminder that no one knocks on your door anymore. The hum of the fridge becomes company, the wall clock ticking through time that no longer feels like yours. And in the middle of it all, a thought that keeps coming back. Does anyone still see me? It's not drama. It's real. You might have friends, family, even messages in group chats. But that doesn't mean presence. Real presence. The kind that sits next to you and asks, with their eyes, "You doing okay in there?" Living alone can be a choice, but feeling alone rarely is. The silence that once felt like rest now feels like punishment. And not because you did something wrong, but because at some point they stopped waiting for you, stopped including you in their plans, stopped saying your name in the little joys of everyday life. And slowly, you stopped too, stopped listening to yourself, stopped inviting yourself back into life. It's like living in a house where the furniture's still in place, but the sound of joy left without notice. And even as time moves on and the days roll by, something in you still looks at the clock and waits, even without knowing exactly what for. Maybe silence isn't the enemy. Maybe it's how it reminds you of everything left unsaid, unlived, unfelt. And at this point in the journey, the question remains, are you listening to the silence or being swallowed by it? The truth is, silence doesn't change on its own. It only shifts when we change how we inhabit our own presence. And the first thing I had to do was break that cycle of waking up and just going through the motions, getting up and carrying on like absence was normal, like emptiness was part of the furniture. One day I realized, either I created a ritual of life, or I'd keep surviving in the gaps between the clocks ticking. So I started small. No big promises, no impossible goals. Just one small intention, to create a moment of connection with myself. Before checking my phone, before opening the windows, before remembering bills and pain, I'd play some soft music, light a candle, and let the coffee water boil as if it were an invitation to care, not a chore. At first, I felt ridiculous, doing all that just for me. But over time, I understood. If I don't treat myself with kindness, who will? I wrote a little phrase on a scrap of paper and stuck it on the fridge. You still have time. And that paper, yellowing with the days, became my most loyal good morning. A reminder that I exist, even when no one's looking. It was a simple act, but slowly, it was as if I was teaching my heart to notice me again. It wasn't about pretending to be happy. It was about offering presence. And you? Have you been treating yourself with the same care you'd offer someone you love? Or are you still waiting for care to come from the outside? Some waits don't hurt because of absence. They say they hurt because they were never acknowledged. I spent years waiting for the phone to ring on Sundays, waiting for someone to miss me without me having to remind them, waiting for half-finished conversations to return one day and end with dignity, waiting for an invitation that silently said, "You still matter." And every time that wait stretched on, something in me shrank, as if my presence was fading, becoming invisible, even to myself. And the cruelest part, often the absence wasn't malicious. It just happened. People moved on, built their families, their routines, their silences, and I stayed there, stuck between being remembered and pretending it didn't hurt. Until the day I realized that keeping on waiting was stopping me from existing. That's when it hit me. I wasn't invisible. I'd just forgotten how to see myself. I stopped waiting for someone to call. Stopped waiting for someone to say, "You're missed." Stopped waiting for life to show up with a tray of fresh beginnings. And that very day, I had lunch alone, but not in a rush. Not standing at the kitchen bench. I set the table, used a nice plate, cut my food slowly, and ate looking out the window, like someone finally allowing themselves to be whole. That's when I discovered being alone isn't the same as being empty. Being alone sometimes is how we learn to hear ourselves again. Loneliness stopped being a void and became a mirror. And mirrors, no matter how harsh, can still reflect light if we know how to look. Taking care of yourself is an art we forget while trying to earn love from others. For many years, I did things with care, but always with someone else in mind. I cleaned the house when visitors were coming. I made special meals when there was someone to share them with. I lit candles only on special days. And I only bought flowers when I knew someone would see them. But when I started living alone, all of that lost its why. And that's when I realized the problem wasn't being alone. It was that I didn't think I was worthy of being cared for by myself. It took time, but I started again. No announcements, no audience. Just one day, I decided to buy flowers even with no visitors planned, to cook something I liked, even if there was no one to share it with, to make sure my towel smelled nice, just because I deserved to be well received by me. At first, it felt like too much, even selfish. But little by little, every act became presence. When no one else was waiting for me, I started waiting for myself. It was like watering a forgotten plant in the corner of the room. At first, it didn't react. But time and consistency brought life back to what once looked too wilted. I stopped doing things just to keep the house in order and started doing them so my heart could feel at home again. And it wasn't about luxury or emotional showiness. It was about seeing myself as someone who also needs care, gentleness, and rest. Being alone doesn't isolate me. It brings me back to myself. Because when you become your own presence, loneliness becomes fertile ground, not a place of abandonment. Loneliness is still here. It didn't go away, but something in me changed its name. I used to see loneliness as an ending, as punishment, a harsh answer for everything I couldn't hold on to. But now, after walking through so many silences, I understand it can also be a beginning. It's no longer about absence. It's about presence. My presence. Whole presence. Presence without audience, without conditions, without fear of being forgotten. It was when I stopped fighting the emptiness that I realized it wasn't so empty after all. It was just waiting to be rearranged. It's like I started furnishing my silence. I placed good memories on a shelf, painted the walls with calm, opened a window where once there was only a wall, and there, where pain used to drip without a name, I began to hear my own voice more clearly. Life after 50 has a different rhythm. It's not less intense. It's more honest. It's not noisy. It's deep. It doesn't ask for speed. It asks for presence. When I started to honor my time, my limits, my silences, I discovered I wasn't as alone as I thought. I was just far from myself. After 50, I don't want to fit in anymore. I want to find myself. And in that search, without urgency, without performance, without stage, loneliness became a temple. It became rest. It became healing. Loneliness is now my inner home. And in it, I finally live in peace. If you've made it this far, maybe silence has also been your most constant neighbor. Maybe you've made peace with routine, but not with that absence that keeps showing up uninvited at the table. And if that's happening, it's not failure, it's life. Real life, after 50. With pauses that weren't planned, with voids that didn't ask permission, with new beginnings that didn't come at the right time, but can still arrive. You're not late. You're not broken. You haven't lost your worth for being alone. Maybe what you call loneliness is just the beginning of reconnecting with your own light. Because living alone is not a punishment. It's a chance. a chance to hear what you've silenced for years while trying to please others, a chance to rearrange the furniture of your soul with more truth, a chance to see yourself with more compassion and less judgment. There's something beautiful about being able to say, "Today, I am enough." Yeah, not out of pride, but out of maturity, as someone who's lived enough to understand that company can be built from the inside out. And if you also live alone, tell me, what was the day you felt most whole in your own presence? Sometimes, one comment can be the hug someone's been waiting for without even knowing it. And here, every word of yours is read like a letter that arrived. Even after all this time, you still have time. Time to care for yourself, to welcome yourself, to become home again. Because living alone is not living less. It's living with more listening, more truth, and more love for yourself.